Welcome to a Community Partners Interview, where we explore the organizations, opportunities, and resources that look to make change in our daily lives. I'm your host, Lilly Cereghini, and you're listening to Voices for Ability Radio, all abilities, all the time. Today, I'm joined by Emily Maxwell, the founder and artistic director of the Disability Collective. The Disability Collective is the only fully disability-led multidisciplinary arts organization in Toronto, dedicated to celebrating and showcasing work created solely by disabled artists. The Disability Collective strives to destigmatize disability and challenge perceptions of disability by providing disabled artists with paid opportunities to share their work in a variety of forms, along with actively advocating for and improving accessibility and inclusion in the Canadian arts community by providing disability consultation services. They're committed to strengthening the disability community's perspective in the arts and creating a space where disabled artists can connect and grow their practices together. Thank you for joining us today, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely. I started my career working in theater. I've always been a lover of theater, a lover of the arts, and I was noticing that there were a lot of times that I was the only disabled person in these theater spaces, and I was having a tough time getting my own accommodations met, including when I was in theater school. No one wanted to sort of make accommodations or meet my access needs, and in 2020, when we were going through the pandemic and sort of everyone had time to pause and reflect on things, I started really thinking about the industry I was working in and how it often would try and label itself as being a really inclusive industry. But the reality is that I did not feel included, and I think a lot of disabled people weren't feeling included. And I just started talking to some other disabled arts makers that I knew and creatives that I knew, and that's sort of where the idea of the Disability Collective sprang to light. We were inspired by some other companies that exist in the United States and the United Kingdom, but there wasn't really anything happening here in Toronto that reflected what we wanted, which was a fully disability-led arts company.
I see. Okay. So you took some inspiration from elsewhere and just made your own beautiful thing.
Exactly, and, and our own personal lived experience tied into it a lot, and I sort of joke that sometimes I just sort of created my dream job, which is amazing, and I feel really lucky, but, yeah, there was a need for it. There was sort of a missing piece here in Toronto, and we felt like, well, if no one else is gonna do this, why don't we try and start something? And luckily, the community has really rallied around us and supported us, and we're lucky to get to be doing this full time now.
Amazing. Making your own job is a very good idea in this economy.
It can be. It can be challenging as well, but I'm so grateful. We always talk about how lucky we feel.
Absolutely. So I see on your website that you have a shop. What can someone buy from there?
We have a lot of various sort of disability themed merch. Some of it's sort of tongue in cheek, poking fun at um some things. We have a lot of merchandise that say things like disabled is not a bad word, nothing about us without us, disability rights are human rights. And then we sell a lot of this merch at our events as well in person, but we wanted to also make sure that folks who aren't able to come to our events in Toronto are able to also support if they would like to. And so we set up an online shop with some of those items available as well. Well, I'm excited that we have some new merchandise coming out in the next couple months, and I'm very excited for it to launch. I do all of our merch designing because I just have fun doing it, and I I can't wait to get the reactions from folks. I hope people enjoy it.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
Mhm.
I also saw that you have your own podcast. What do you talk about on the podcast?
The podcast was started as sort of an additional way to create some accessibility and extra information around some of the events that we do every year, and especially geared towards the blind and low vision community. So We have two incredible hosts, JJ Hunt and Christine Malik. JJ Hunt is an audio describer, and Christine Malik is a blind artist. And they sort of work together to create a guide to a lot of our events that goes through a lot of the visual details that folks might want to know heading into an event. We've also found that there are a lot of people who aren't in the blind low vision community who really like getting some of that extra information. I myself, as someone who's autistic, find that some of that extra information around what to expect heading into an event is really useful. And then they also do a lot of behind the scenes interviews with folks. So we've interviewed different artists that we've worked with. We've done deep dives into specific projects that we've worked on. For example, JJ has done a couple of really great episodes diving into the Rocky Horror Picture Show because we've done performances of that 3 years in a row now. And it just gives everyone sort of a behind the scenes information about how we produce our events, what events are going on, meeting the artists directly, but then also providing some of that access information that folks may want to know to sort of help prepare them to come and join us in person.
I am visually impaired myself, and trust me when I say we appreciate that stuff.
It's really cool. I love it, and it's a really fun format to play with the audio format and playing with podcasts. It's been so interesting, and even things with the Rocky Horror episode, JJ was able to cut sort of clips from the film into the episode so that when you're listening to it, you can start to, you hear a character's voice and then you can match it to their description. And it's just, I think it's really great. But it also, as I said, is sort of created by and for blind low vision folks, but then ends up being something that so many people enjoy and benefit from. So I think it's we're really having a lot of fun exploring that. We only launched it at the end of 2024, so it's still fairly new. But we're excited to keep working on it and thinking of new ways that we can continue to add to it.
I also really like Rocky Horror.
It's
That
a
show is
fun
so fun.
Well, and it's
Absolutely.
interesting that the way that we've done it the last few years is, so Rocky Horror has a tradition of doing this shadow cast every year. So, performers would come and sort of mime the performance in front of a screening of the film. And I had an idea a few years ago of, well, if it's a shadow cast, why couldn't we do a deaf shadow cast and have them perform the show in sign language? And so that's what we've been doing the last few years. But what's also been really cool about that is that we then also have an audio describer coming in and describing the sort of the art of singing in sign language, which has been really interesting to dive into. So there's a really cool interview actually on our podcast available where uh, we have a blind artist and a deaf artist talking through their sort of the visuals of sign singing. Um, so it's the podcast has really allowed us to dive into topics that we otherwise wouldn't get to discuss and have these conversations about.
I feel ignorant. I actually didn't know that sign singing is a thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like it's like a whole different art form with sign language. I mean, in the same way that we use our voices differently between speaking, between singing, between, public speaking versus talking to a friend or a colleague, we use our voices and sort of the inflection in our voices is different, and it's the same with sign language. So it's really interesting, and getting to learn about it directly from the director of Rocky Horror that we worked with, who's deaf. Her name is Gatry. Getting to sort of learn directly from her about it was really interesting. And then Christine, who's blind, was able to ask questions from her perspective of, what's the feeling of it rather than what's the visual of it. And it's just a really interesting um, it was just a really interesting episode, and I just love that we've been able to sort of dive into some of those topics that you might not otherwise learn about, on like a mainstream podcast.
For sure. That is really cool. If someone wanted to submit their work to you, how could someone do that?
The best way, honestly, is to reach out to me and email me. My email's just emily@thedisabilitycollective.com. Try to keep it simple. There's a bunch of contact information on our website as well. We don't hide email addresses because we want people to easily reach us. Um, And I am pretty much always open to meeting folks and having discussions and finding ways to support. We can't always do, every project that comes our way. Unfortunately, I wish I could do it all. Um, but sometimes it's even just about helping people make connections. So someone might reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm working on this project." And I might go, "That's awesome. This other person came to me 2 weeks ago and they're working on a project that's similar. Why don't I connect you two? And you can maybe do something together. And then we can figure out how the Disability Collective can support." So I just really believe that collaboration is so key. I believe in community working together, supporting each other, uplifting each other. So I'm always eager for people to reach out, and I try to be as accessible, as reachable as possible. Um, Sometimes that's hard as we're a small team here, and the demand sometimes is quite high. But I really want to. I really want folks to feel like they get to know us as people as well, that they get to know the people who are working behind the Disability Collective and have an understanding of who we are, so that they can reach out and talk to us and pitch ideas and we can collaborate on things together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, collectivism is very, very important to our communities. It has to
Yeah.
be.
Absolutely. Well, and that's why we chose collective within our title, was because we don't think of it as, this is our project. This is something that we're doing ourselves. There were three of us who sort of started this. And we don't believe that this work belongs to us. It's a community, it's a collective, meaning that anyone can be part of the collective. We're all part of the collective. Um, yeah, so there's a lot of thought that went into that name.
For sure. Are there any restrictions, though, to the services at the Disability Collective, such as age, caregivers, or family members only? That kind of thing?
Not really. We don't have we don't have very strict sort of regulations around things like that. We're very open to, whatever sorts of projects come our way, whatever people are interested in, whatever people want to work on. We really take our cues from the community. So when we hear that the community is interested in a specific type of project, we go, "Great, how can we focus on that right now? What can we do in that realm?" Um, we do always wanna make sure that all of our projects are disability led. That's sort of our main mandate, is that, um, if someone's coming into a project who's disabled and they have a caregiver or family member who's working alongside them, that's totally great. We just wanna make sure that, the disabled folks and the lived experience of disabled folks is sort of being prioritized in that project or within that. So, um, yeah, it's just our mandate to make sure that that disability art is what is sort of, eh, main stage.
Mhm. Put it right on the table. I like
Exactly.
So, speaking of the art, without using any names, could you share a success story with me?
Oh gosh, we're lucky that we have a lot. I mean, I'll say that we've done now 3 years in a row a really fun, disability and deaf drag and burlesque show for Pride every year, which has been really fun, because the disabled community has been left out of a lot of events that happen during Pride, and so we really wanted to try and find a way to celebrate. And I also think, again, I mentioned earlier that I'm autistic, and I find that a lot of Pride events are a bit overstimulating for me. um, like, they're fun, and I get that people wanna party, and that's great, but for me, it's just a little bit much, and I wanted to create a Pride event that felt a little bit more calming and relaxing. And so that's an event that I've been really proud of, where we've been able to highlight drag and burlesque artists, and I also think that drag and burlesque are both art forms that are, sort of undervalued and underrated, and also have been under attack in recent years, and so it was really important to us to get to showcase those artists and their work, and do so in an environment that feels safe and accessible for as many people as possible.
Absolutely. The one Pride event I've ever been to in my life was just this past Pride. I went to a concert that a friend of mine was performing in, and he's only very recently out. So I was so proud of him, but it was so accessible. Everyone was so cool with like, "Yeah, of course you get a front row seat. You're visually impaired, right?" And I'm
Yeah.
just, I love that. Whereas on the street pride might be kind of inaccessible.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm finding is that, like, if you go to events that are, where the producers of the event are really involved and understand the audiences that are coming out and the needs of the audiences and the needs of the community, they're much more willing to think through those access needs, think through the front row seating, think through all of those sorts of things. Accessible ticket prices, all those sorts of things. We do a lot of consultation work with various organizations throughout Ontario to help make their practices more accessible as well. And we found that it's often the smaller organizations and smaller companies who are more willing to put in that work with accessibility than the big organizations. So, not to pick on the big guys all the time, but, like, I just want them to try and do a little bit more because I think they definitely have the capacity to do more, and I think it's something that needs to be prioritized a little bit more within a lot of our large scale programming within Ontario.
I hear you on that. And to follow up on that kind of theme, what is the one thing that you see happening over and over again to individuals with disabilities that shouldn't be? And how do we put a stop to it?
I think the there's so many things. I could talk about this for hours. But I think my biggest thing is I just really dislike when assumptions are made about people. I don't This is the main thing that we sort of teach when we're doing consultation work is don't make assumptions about someone's disability, don't make assumptions about what someone's access needs might be. Um, Ask questions, be considerate, be willing to change and learn and adapt. Um, and also don't rely on disabled people to educate you on everything. You know, we always sort of joke like at the Disability Collective, we're here to educate. That's our job. That's what we want to do. So you can come ask us, but you're not just going to ask random, disabled folks who are coming to your events to educate you on how to make something accessible. Um, so, work with the disabled community. I firmly believe that all accessibility programs and access needs and any access coordination that's going on at events should be disability led. I think we should always have disabled people working within these sectors to make sure that the lived experiences of disabled people are represented. Um, and just, I think, yeah, the don't make assumptions thing, I think, is probably the biggest piece of the puzzle to me because the number of times that I've had I've heard from people say, "Oh, well, I was too scared to try this access whatever because I thought it would be like this." And the reality is actually it's not like that at all. Um, it's hard to hear sometimes, and so I just want folks to just be open and not be afraid of making mistakes.
Mm. Mhm. I hear you on that actually, because I have a bit of a phobia of walking into a job interview, for example, because I have no choice but to disclose. I use a
Mhm.
white cane. So the moment I
Right.
come into your office or into your institution, you're going to clock me and go, "Oh, expensive and scary. And I don't want to work with them. I want to work with someone else, who is someone who isn't visually impaired." People think that we're expensive and scary, but they don't bother to actually look into asking our opinion about what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. They make that assumption. They make sort of a quick judgment about something because they haven't been educated, because there hasn't been a lot of representation, because we don't talk about disability openly, in society the way that I think we should, and so because of all these things, it can be scary for disabled people, and it can be hard for non-disabled people to understand that, and I think we just need to learn to talk to each other a little bit better, which is something that is, I find society struggles with more and more these days, but, I think it's important, and also, the reality is that, there need to be better programs available as well for employers to get like funding resources available to provide access needs. I know that something that I hear all the time from people is, oh, we would struggle to hire a deaf person because we can't afford to hire an ASL interpreter full time. And there are programs and funding available through the Canadian government to subsidize those costs, but a lot of people don't know about them. Um, and also, I mean, the government is funding from the government is a really difficult thing to navigate, so I totally understand that. But again, it's that's why we need to have these conversations. It takes someone saying, "Actually, I know how to navigate this. Let me explain it to you," rather than just sort of making that assumption saying, "Well, I'm not going to hire this person because I've just made a rash decision based on limited information that I have."
Because expensive and scary.
Exactly. Exactly. Disabled
I
people aren't scary. We're not
No, we're
scary.
really not. I also like to promote interdisability communication to
Yeah.
get to know one another because
Yes.
that's also a way of seizing power.
Oh, absolutely. We hosted a conference in October, to sort of, talk through accessibility in the arts, and we invited all these different arts administrators across the country to come and participate. It was really incredible, and I hosted a panel on, cross-disability collaboration, and so how disabled artists with completely different access needs, can sort of collaborate and work together, and how, there's strength in numbers. And again, we've been talking about community, talking about the choice behind the word collective, and I think that that's such an important piece of the puzzle is the disabled community is really strong, and we uplift each other and support each other all the time. And I have never felt, um, as sort of proud and excited as I feel when I, get to connect two disabled artists together who then go off and start working on something together or find solidarity together and strength in numbers. And I think it's a really beautiful thing that we get to help facilitate. Um and yeah, I think it's really important for disabled people to, you know, help each other out, stand up for each other where we can, call out things where we can, and also offer, that quiet support, helping, maybe you send a meal to someone if they're having a difficult time, or you just send someone a nice message or whatever it might be, but it's that support and that community care that I think is so vital to the disabled community.
Absolutely. It's the little things that add up, right? And I mean, we're 27% of the population or thereabouts. So we're not small.
Exactly, yeah, and I suspect that that number is probably higher. I think it's, 27% of folks who have been able to receive a diagnosis. I think that there are probably a lot of people who are disabled who haven't had access to the tools that they need to understand their own disabilities. So I suspect that the number is actually significantly higher than 27%, but that's at least, it's over a quarter of the population. So if you're in a room with four people, there's always at least one of you probably that has a disability. So, if you're in an office with 100 people, that's going to be a lot of people. So it always baffles me when people are sort of they're scared of it, and I understand that society has been, difficult, and I get it, but I think that's why it's important for, conversations like this one to exist to talk about it and sort of say, um, just let's talk, let's be open, and that's probably in our mandate we talk about destigmatizing disability because it is a thing that for so long, especially in the arts, I was told, I have some visual and some non-visual disabilities, but I was told to try my best to hide all of my disabilities, otherwise I wouldn't get hired. Um,
Uh-huh.
and
I've
that's
heard that before.
yes, of course, I'm sure. And so that's something though that now like we actively rebel against and we're trying to talk to companies about and um but it's a really hard thing. It's continuous work, and that's why the communal support is so important because that's what keeps you going in the moments when things get tough and conversations are hard, is that you can turn to community and have those conversations that sort of, refuel your soul a little bit.
Precisely. So, are there any events coming up for the Disability Collective?
Yes, we have an event coming up on December 7th. We are doing our annual disability holiday festival. So this is an event we've done for the past 4 years. We have a large artisan vendor market, with 30 vendors. We have musicians, we have community activations, we have a card making station, an ornament making station. We're going to have a campfire with s'mores. We're going to have games, a photo booth, a raffle. It's just like a really lovely, cozy environment where folks can come and sort of celebrate the holiday season, maybe do a little bit of holiday shopping. And we just find it's a really lovely way to sort of wrap up the year and have a moment where folks can come together and celebrate and reminisce on the year. And we've enjoyed doing it so much and hope to continue doing it every single year.
100%. You say s'mores, and I'm like, I want to go. I want to go. Just for the s'mores.
I'm excited. It's the first year that we're doing the s'mores, and I'm really excited about it. We've previously only held the event indoors. It's at Witchwood Barns in Toronto on December 7th. And this year we're sort of expanding to do an indoor-outdoor thing. So we have a lot of heaters outdoors and the fire pit so people can stay warm. But usually in early December, it's still decent enough that folks are comfy, spending, a little bit of time outdoors. Just we recommend that folks bundle up a little bit. But then if you get cold, just come on inside and warm up and then wander around and explore all the vendors. We're doing some cool things with we have a touch tour available for some of the items that the vendors are selling. We have an audio described tour of the marketplace that's happening. We have singing and signing Anna and Elsa from Frozen, which I'm really excited about.
Wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun and really cute. I can't wait.
Excellent. If someone wanted to become a member or a volunteer with the Disability Collective, what's the process?
The best thing is to again reach out over email. We have a volunteer sign up on our website, but also just to send us an email. Again, all of our contact information is available on our website, or sort of general team email is just team@thedisabilitycollective.com. And that email gets monitored regularly. And so if folks reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in helping out or I'm interested in getting involved, those emails get sent directly to me or other members of our team, and then we will be in touch to find out ways to get folks involved with the work that we're doing. We're always eager to meet new people and find ways to get community involved. So always excited for folks to reach out.
I imagine that folks would love to reach out.
I hope so. I hope so. We're always eager to build the community.
For sure. So, follow up to that, what is the one thing that everyone should know about the Disability Collective?
I think the one thing that folks should know is that we are 100% disability led. And when we talk about that, I mean that every single member of our staff identifies as disabled, every single member of our board identifies as disabled. So, truly, no decisions are being made without consulting disabled community and without consulting the lived experience of disabled folks. And so, and I think that's what sets us apart from other organizations is that we um we have sort of a vast array of lived experiences and diverse perspectives to really try to make our events and the work we do as accessible as possible. That doesn't mean we get everything right, and that doesn't mean that we do everything, because it's impossible to make everything 100% accessible for everybody because some access needs conflict with each other. But I think we do a pretty good job of getting as many perspectives as possible involved in the decision making. And yeah, and that we're really like community based. If in our office when we're working on things, we all chime in with everything. We have our own departments that we sort of work within. As artistic director, I'm focused on programming. We have a director of accessibility and consultation. We have a producer. We have a marketing person, but we all are actively involved in every piece of the puzzle. So yeah, it's I think the fact that we are truly disability led is what really sets us apart.
Love that business model because V4A is the same thing.
Yeah.
So, if listeners are looking for more information, how can they reach out to you?
Our website has a lot of great information, thedisabilitycollective.com. We are on Instagram and TikTok at Disability Collective and on Facebook at Disability Collective Canada. And we post regularly on social media with all of our updates and things that we're working on. We also have a newsletter, so folks can go to thedisabilitycollective.com/subscribe to subscribe to our newsletter. And again, we're very reachable via email if folks want to reach out. We check messages on social media fairly often. And the best way to get involved is to try and come to our events. We do a lot of live streams for our events too. So if folks aren't able to come in person, they can tune in online. to try and make it as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. And I really think that that's the best way to get involved in the work that we're doing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, this has been a great interview. You're great.
Oh, thank you.
Got to get more people hooked up with y'all.
Yes, I hope so. I hope so. I'm always, as I said, I'm so eager to meet new people. I always want to find out what other people are up to and what they're doing and what they want from us and how we can support them. So, um, I'm always looking for ways to connect.
Excellent. Thank you. You've been listening to a Community Partners interview on Voices for Ability Radio. I'm your host, Lilly Cereghini. And remember, folks, stick together because we're all in this together.